All right, I think we will kick it off. I think I want to start firstly with thanking Kima for inviting us for this interesting space today. I think the previous space with Eitan, CEO of Kima, was well received by both communities. Maybe a quick introduction for the people who have missed it the last time. A quick introduction about myself as well as Arkefi. Then I'll give it over to Amro. Then we kick it off with Tomer. So my name is Nick. I'm Chief Commercial Officer at Arkefi, part of the founding team. My background, the last 3 years working professionally in the crypto space across multiple companies with regards to infrastructure, DeFi, and all kind of related activities. And I've been joining Arkefi since over a year ago. The reason why is very simple. Arkefi is building something really novel. In short, Arkefi is a platform for both asset owners as buyers to come together. So we've provided a platform where you as an asset owner for high value assets, typically ranging of 1 million and above, like assets like Picasso, Ferraris, etc., to extract liquidity from. So typically there's no solution for these high value assets to extract liquidity. If you look at the existing financial system, it's very hard to extract any liquidity from these non-bankable assets. And this is kind of the solution that Arkefi is building. So we had the first pilot live a few months ago, where we have listed a Denvo asset on the platform, where we were able to open it up to the community and do the first test run. In the meantime, we have made a lot of progress. So Arkefi has been building on the AI evaluation tool in order to provide a well-funded investment decision for the participants or the buyers in the platform itself. So I think today as well, we would like to focus on the opportunity between Kima Kima Network and Arkefi, because one of the major challenges that we still see in the market is with regards to cross-chain liquidity and how to optimize this ecosystem. But I think before we dive into those topics, I would like to give the word to Amro and Tomer to do a quick intro as well.
Yeah, so hi everybody. Good morning. Thank you, Nick. My name is Amr Shiada. I'm the founder and CEO of Velocity DAO, where we help focus on helping non-traditional founders and actual companies that are making impact and have real commercializable business models leverage global liquid crypto markets and engage communities to actually scale and scale into enterprise use cases. And that's where I'm really excited to be a part of this today, and really excited to talk about the current news and the absolute innovation that's being done both by Kima and Arkefi, and kind of where that's taking us into the future of leveraging decentralization. So what I'd love to say is just everybody, follow each other, use your social currency to connect with everybody, and I'd encourage questions to be asked in the comments, and let's just have some fun today. So Tomer would love to turn it over to you and really understand kind of about you, and if you want to kick us off on what's been the latest news over at Kima as well.
Of course, guys, we'll be happy to present myself and Kima. Thank you for these lovely introductions. It's going to be fun today. I think that we have some great minds and subjects to discuss. Looking forward to it. A bit about myself. I'm a digital marketeer, you can say digital entrepreneur for the last 25 years. Started the very early days of the internet, these dark days when people did not create content on the web yet. In the ages of the first search engines, that's where I started my journey. Then it became e-commerce. Later on, cybersecurity, and had 5 startups of my own. 3 destroyed me financially completely, and then I restarted for my life from scratch twice, and managed in both of my adventures to have a successful exits. Then became an angel investor, then been an angel investor, and nowadays you can say professional trader. After I was a very amateur and a failure of a trader for the first 3 years, So I've been trading and investing for 12 years now. One of my portfolio companies was Kima, still is Kima. Met them just kind of long time ago. They amazed me with their technology and what they were building. I did not think that what Kima is creating was even possible to do back in the day. And one thing led to another. I got the opportunity to join the team as somewhat of a late founder and to take ownership of all of the marketing and business development back then. And everything, of course, related to token operations from A to Z and fundraising, etc. I've been doing it ever since in Kima. Active in the community since 2016, exclusively investing only in blockchain projects since 2019, and also writing for Forbes and Cointelegraph about blockchain infrastructure and DeFi for the last 4 years. So that's about me in a nutshell. And about Kima, to those of you who do not know us, Kima is a universal communication protocol. To explain in a human normal language what we do, we are a protocol that enables every blockchain on Earth to communicate with every blockchain on Earth, and with any, and to any centralized application, what we call Web 2, to communicate directly with any Web 3 app on any blockchain. So we're basically making the financial interoperability languages universal through the Kima protocol, and we're enabling the connection and the operation between these two completely disconnected ecosystems, the centralized financial ecosystem and the decentralized financial ecosystems. We're doing it with no smart contracts. We're doing it with no oracles. We're doing it with no intermediaries. And it happens in the speed of light, the way that Kima operates. We have no latency on our side, so we're not adding any latency to the transactions. Basically, the only latency is the existing latency that you have on both sides and both chains. If you move from a chain to chain, that's the only time that it will take to resolve the transaction. So we are not interfering and bothering anyone. That's it in a nutshell. We can go deeper later on. So let's kick it off, guys. Thank you for having me here again.
Yeah, and I think Nick, did you give you gave an overview on Arkefi, correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah,
So
I think the overview was more about who Arkefi is and kind of the glimpse of why this partnership can be so interesting, right? So I think maybe we need to dive a little bit deeper on that
yeah,
one.
so before that, I'd love to kind of dive into, just drill down a little bit on what Tomer was saying. So I'd love to understand kind of what the what does Kima's network's decentralized settlement protocol, how does that you mentioned it's built in a unique way. How does that exactly work to enhance cross-chain interoperability? It seems like is it API based? Is it more so I'd love to understand kind of the settlement across chains and kind of how that helps kind of unify or remove fragmented liquidity.
So would love to explain. Thanks. Let's start with what exists today and how stuff operates on chain today, how these ecosystems are communicating. Nowadays, if you want to transfer, let's say, an asset from Ethereum to Solana, you will need to use a bridge that basically will be moving the asset from side to side. You will need usually to use a wrapped asset if you're not using a stablecoin, a native asset. And all of that process is going to rely on smart contracts and oracles. So let's try in the most simple example to transfer 100 USDC from Solana to Ethereum. So I'm sending now 100 USDC on Solana. The 100 USDC have been received by a smart contract by the bridge, which will confirm that he got 100 USDC and will initiate a 100 USDC transaction on Ethereum. I will receive 100 USDC on Ethereum now by another smart contract. The whole process happened with smart contracts and oracles. Smart contracts and oracles are software. Every software written by someone has someone somewhere around the world that will be able to find an exploit and a mistake in, and find a loophole, and will be able to hack it and use that exploit to their benefit. So if I will be able to trick the bridge on one side, I can basically drain all of the liquidity on the other side. That's why bridges are the most vulnerable targets on chain. In the DeFi world, usually when stuff is getting hacked, it's usually a bridge, because you just need to hack one side and then you win the casino. You can just drain everything from the other side and go away. So let's send the 100 USDC now with Kima, and we're going to do it with no smart contracts in the most secure way known to men today. So sending 100, okay, a step back. Kima has a relay on every blockchain that we're connected to. That relay is like the Ethernet socket. Imagine that it's the Ethernet socket that you have in your home, in your wall, to connect to the internet. So Kima builds a relay on every blockchain we're connected to. So on Solana, we have the Kima relay, and there's a Kima relay on the Ethereum network. So right now, 100 USDC have arrived to the smart contract on Solana. The smart contract has Kima's SDK implanted on it, and the smart contract now sends a message through the Kima SDK, which is our internet cable, your Ethernet cable, connected to the relay, sends a message to the Kima network saying, I got $100, send $100 to this address once confirmed. Now, the message goes down to the Kima network. The Kima network validator nodes now need to validate physically to see that the transaction indeed happened on Solana. So in order to trick and fake that transaction, you need to hack to all of the Solana network to fake that transaction of 100 USDC, because our validator nodes need to see that historically it exists there. Once 2/3 of the validator nodes confirm that 100 USDC indeed arrived and indeed there where they're supposed to be, each validator node is revealing a shard that is stored on the CPU core of each validator node's processor, revealing the shard, restructuring, basically decrypting the shards and restructuring the private keys to the MPC vault on Ethereum. And the whole network now, the whole network participating validator nodes are signing the transaction on the Ethereum side to send 100 USDC. That's how we're closing from end to end this transaction with no latency. Now, it sounds very complex because it sounds like very hard to understand, and it sounds like a lot of processes are taking place. But the truth is that everything I just told you guys happened in the speed of light, because there was no computation. The only computation that took place was the process that happened on the Solana side to resolve the smart contract. Then we sent a message, no asset, no nothing, to the Kima network. Kima network validated it, that it exists at the speed of light, exactly like we're having this Twitter space conversation now, and initiated the transaction on the Ethereum side, on a smart contract. Then smart contract on Ethereum, smart contract on Solana remained, that they need to be finalized by the networks, but Kima happened in the speed of light, and it happened in the most secure possible manner known to men today, and it was super cheap also. The users did not even know, by the way, that they used Kima to do all of this process. It's like you don't know how the HTTP protocol operates. You're just going to your browser and you put x.com and poof, you're here. You don't know on which servers the stuff is being stored. You don't know which technology it was built upon. You just see websites on your browsers. So Kima unifies and unites the operation between all of these disconnected ecosystems. And because we are not using any smart contracts, we are enabling the existence of an API on the Kima network. That API is what enables centralized applications to communicate with any decentralized application. Because, again, we have no smart contracts. So we're agnostic to the technology that is being used, and we're completely agnostic to the assets or the message that you want to transfer now and in the future.
I think that's
That is
huge.
basically,
I
yeah,
think that's huge,
thank
and
you.
it's definitely faster than X, and definitely more secure than X. So just want to make sure that
Yeah.
everybody's. I want to double click on a couple points there. So number one, just to give people an idea of the problem that exists. I mean, if you look at cross chain bridges, you're looking at something around 4 billion was lost in 2022. It was obviously decreased in 2023, but in 2024, it worsened a lot, and there was over $3 billion lost in exploits or hacks in bridging. And much to Tomer's point, we don't need the goal of what we're doing in this space should not be to understand and see how things work. It should be to actually have the ease of use and basically the abstraction away from complexity and just understanding that this is securely happening. And so if we're talking about, these applications in DeFi, yeah, we're looking at $3 billion it's a lot. But when you look at real world assets and tokenization, that's expected to be a $16 trillion industry by 2030. I think we can start to draw the lines into why this is so important and why the ability to actually have cross-chain liquidity and secure tokenized assets moving becomes super important, because we're talking about a huge amount of value that truthfully a single exploit is not an option. So it's really super interesting to kind of hear kind of about how that the core services there really focus in, and then the security there makes everything safe and efficient. And it's refreshing to hear API, because that is what the entire world runs on. The world does not run on blockchains. The world does not run on these things. The world uses APIs to communicate between different systems, and that's how we're able to hopefully grow from being a space to an industry ourselves. And that's really one of the main aims we have, and why we're having these conversations, is to highlight companies that are providing the solutions that enable that, and then companies that actually create the ability to see how we can commercialize things, buzzwords like RWA and tokenization. So I would love to ask Nick, is like, from that, moving into how this can help in terms of commercializing asset tokenization. And I'd love to ask you two things: is how does Arkefi aim to address this, and then how do you see how do you envision the strategic partnership with Kima kind of enabling that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so one of the core pillars of Arkefi is to make RWAs more accessible, because we're talking about assets that speak to the imagination in the Arkefi platform, right? These are tangible assets that people can actually relate to. But in order to attract it to the bigger audience, we also need to have, let's say, the Web2 experience being created for people who are less Web3 savvy. So with the partnership with Kima, we actually tap into a market where we provide the services around easy liquidity and cross-chain liquidity to make it easier as a participant to the Arkefi platform. Because in the end, the more adoption we have, the easier it becomes, the more successful everyone becomes in the ecosystem. And I think you're spot on, right? I think it's not anymore a niche that we're currently creating, but it has so much potential to grow and to outscale and to interact with more traditional financial institutions if we do this right. So I think the main goal for us as Arkefi is to providing that pathway to success, not only for the retail investors, but as well to make it more institutionalized. And I think with partners like Kima, we can actually make that happen, and that fits in directly into our strategy. And by default, it is a little bit of complex, right? So if you look at our fractional option financing, it's a term. As a more seasoned investor, you probably understand what it is. And what we're actually trying to do is actually make it more understandable for people to participate in these assets, and explain detailed what the option financing can be and why it is so interesting. Because this business model actually runs on I would say, a century old or multiple century and old business model, right? If you're familiar in the US or in the UK or any other countries where they have this kind of brick and mortar pawn shops where you bring in a physical asset and then are being able to get liquidity based on that asset, and you need to repurchase this asset with a premium. Basically, Arkefi is doing the same thing, but then for high-end issues and making sure that we can actually provide this liquidity both from a buyer and a seller opportunity.
No, that's super interesting. So, I mean, it sounds like what we have on one hand is creating the ability for people to participate very easily with complex, DeFi primitives, all the way to cross-chain interoperability, all the way to real-world asset tokenization. And so, I think it's really important to understand that these things are super buzzwords, but it's all about distilling them down into simplicity. And so I think it's really important to kind of give people the power, give users the power to actually access these things. And so I would love to kind of dive in and ask Tomer, I'd love for you to kind of share what are you, from your perspective, what's the most beneficial aspect of the partnership with Arkefi, and kind of being able to showcase to the average user what this unlocks for them?
So, I believe that by enabling every person in this industry specifically to diversify portfolio and hold not only normal risky and super volatile crypto assets that basically have no anchored value outside of the real world, you can say. So, of course, I'm speaking about the most of the tokens, right? Not on all of them. Then we're basically enabling investors now to access to a whole new world of investment vehicles that will locked to them. And in this partnership, we are not only actually able to tap into that amazing inventory, of assets to hold and to invest and to take part and participate by holding them in a fractionalized manner, but we are enabling the value of these assets to enter the whole ecosystem and basically add more support to the existing how do you call it? Collateral assets that we can use on the decentralized ecosystem. Also, it's amazing to see that we are by tokenizing the RWA and enabling the tradability, with Kima in such a seamless manner, connecting centralized and real-world assets that are backed by the real physical centralized world, enabling it to connect directly to any blockchain, theoretically, in a completely intermediary-less manner. This partnership enables people not only to diverse their portfolios, but basically to do it in the most efficient way known to us today. And also, we're enabling to add these assets a whole new level of liquidity that did not exist until today. If we're discussing, for example, on stocks and on commodities, to those of you who are trading stocks, you're probably aware of the term T+2, T+3, which means transaction plus 2-3 days, basically to finalize. So when you're selling a stock, for example, today on your applications on your bank, the transaction do not really being settled at the same day. It happens at fastest a day after, or 2, 3, or 4 days sometimes after. Depends which exchange you're using and what you're buying. But that's the time it really takes to do the transaction. When you will try to withdraw the assets, your money from the bank, you will see that you see the number there, but you cannot withdraw the money. That's because the money is not really there. The bank just shows you how much money you theoretically have when they will get that money from the other side that basically they sold your stocks to, or from the broker that we're sitting in the middle. Now, with Arkefi and the Kima connection, these are happening in T+0. So when I'm actually selling you an asset, there is no latency here. Like, I got the asset the same second and you got paid at the same second. So it's a whole new level of liquidity that we were not able to tap into before. This is guys, for those of you who are not aware, this is like revolutionary.
It's huge.
Um,
It's huge. And one thing to add is these
yeah,
clearinghouses, they're not incentivized to reduce that T plus number. So a good analogy I like to
correct.
use there is it's like two filing cabinets. It's like a ton of filing cabinets, and they're all of them are sending papers to each other, and those are the orders that our people are making. And then they're basically taking 3 to even 7 days to match it with the rest of the order so it can settle, so they can clear those transactions. What effectively is happening now is now you're taking the filing cabinets away and you're just creating one giant stack of paper, and now you're allowing Kima and the blockchain and Arkefi to actually automatically shuffle and settle those orders in real time. So that removes the intermediary, it removes the time, it removes the lag, and it doesn't remove the security. It doesn't make anything more at risk. And so what it does is actually it decreases the amount of liquidity that's actually taken at each step of the way, and then it also decreases the number of intermediaries and actually unlocks new use cases. And the reason that's important is because we have traditional finance kind of looking at ways to use the blockchain in a very legitimized way. And right now you can see the boom in the ETFs, right? I mean, you can see Bitcoin ETF and all the rest of every major token lining up to launch an ETF. The issue with that is that it's not actually transacting on chain. It's actually being settled in the way that Tomer just described. And so that's not actually good for this space. And so it's really important that we look at use cases where we're showing not only Web3 users and Web3 native users that you can diversify out of different tokens that may not have any type of real value behind them. That's always up to the people holding in a lot of cases, but in this case, you can actually start to tie what you're buying into, having assets behind them, having real collateral behind them. And so I think that will not only bring, more liquidity into the equation, but it allows for more unique challenges to be addressed, and to see that in tokenization, much like any new technology, it's fragmented and it's kind of misunderstood. When you take something and you create a digital clone of it and you put it on the blockchain, it doesn't automatically attract liquidity. It doesn't automatically create value. Like you have to create a use case where people are interested in actually creating that liquidity and creating that value, so that you can actually generate returns or generate yield, or APR, however you want to classify it. You can generate value for the people involved in the transaction, and that's a big misunderstanding that people have. Like, yeah, sure, we can take this massive real estate portfolio and you can put it on chain, but unless someone's got $7 billion they want to put on the other side of it, it's not exactly, a liquid asset, no matter the security, no matter the ease of use. And so a couple things I want to drill down on specifically is, showcasing how real world asset and tokenization is commercialized. And Nick, this is where I'd love for you to share kind of what are the unique challenges in asset tokenization. How does Arkefi address it, and how does AI play a part in that?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I mentioned in the beginning, right? So we're focused on these non-bankable assets where mostly ultra-high net worth individuals has no opportunity to extract liquidity from. So this is luxury cars, high valuable art pieces, and collectibles, which are typically illiquid. So what we do within the Arkefi ecosystem, we provide an opportunity for these illiquid assets to become more interesting for the high net worth individual to extract liquidity from. So what we do, we tokenize an asset, basically creating a digital twin out of it, and putting it into smaller fractions. And these smaller fractions are going to be offered through the Arkefi platform for external buyers to chip in. So the interesting concept here is that there are basically two scenarios. So from a tokenization perspective, we're able to provide a position that provides a minimum yield components from 6 to 10% if the asset owner actually fires off the repurchase of his asset. So he's basically bringing in enough liquidity to repurchase his asset and is making the investors or the buyers of the platform capturing their yield component. The second scenario is actually more interested for the buyers, is where you have a default scenario where the asset owner is unable to repurchase his asset and it's being sold on the secondary market. Now suddenly this tokenized and fractionalized asset is now in ownership of the buyers on the platform, meaning that if the asset is going to be sold in the secondary market, and we have deep relationship with the famous auction houses like Christie's, Sotheby's, but as well big car dealerships here in Europe, to create the upside for the people who have participated in the platform. So now suddenly such an illiquid asset actually has an opportunity to make it more accessible, and as well as a buyer point of view, these tokenized assets now don't become a locked in position, because if you, and this is a little bit futuristic, so as of now it's only the primary market, but you can imagine as well that these kind of secondary markets for these positions and the speculation around it are going to improve as well, especially if we create the composability towards DeFi with other protocols like Pendle, where you have this kind of stable yield component combined with the DeFi yields, and make something really interesting out of it.
And so that's something where, I think it's also important to discuss that. I'd love to ask both of you this question is how do we, it's really important, because what I'm hearing is that we're able to provide users a really easy way to tap in and diversify their holdings. It's a really easy way to understand what tokenization is, what cross-chain liquidity can do for you. Ideally, like Tomer said, you don't want to know how the sausage is made. You just want the end product. So that's something that's huge. And with that, really, a couple things come to mind is how does AI factor into this? Because Nick, I'd love to kind of dive in terms of how are the assets properly valued, and because Kima, what it seems like is Kima doesn't require a ton of heavy lifting to actually create the use cases that are needed to actually show people this is what this is worth. This is what, here's how we're creating these outcomes. So I'd love for you to dive in on how kind of AI factors in.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's the interesting part, right? Because you have both a off-chain and an on-chain process. So if you look at from an off-chain perspective, where the first due diligence on the asset actually starts, and from the Arkefi platform, what we have done, we have collected all sales data from all the auction houses over the last centuries with regards to these high-value assets. So we collected a database for all cars, art pieces, and collectibles being sold on the secondary market. So actually what we have did based on this database and based on these insights, we have built what we call an AI evaluation tool. So this tool provides the right insights for not only the asset owner to actually find out what the actual value is. So what we can do is we provide a low estimate and a high estimate based on the actual asset. For the asset owner. So you can actually define the price point where we say, okay, this is the 50% acquisition price that the Arkefi platform can offer for such a specific offer. On the other side, from an investor or buyer perspective, it gives the right insights for you to make well-funded investment decisions in participating in these kind of listings. So what we will do over time is to increase the size of the asset listings over time for people to get acquainted with how the process looks like, the ease of use we can create, but also the upside that it potentially create for the investors, because it's not boosted yield, it's not fabricated yields, which you see a lot of in this DeFi protocols where you have no clue how you're actually getting this yield component. That's different with Arkefi option financing. Is actually your yield is coming based on an actual business process that flows back to the protocol and flows back to the token holders. So that's yeah, we're very looking forward to scale that out.
And Tomer, would love to kind of hear your thoughts on how do you view kind of the AI? You know, it's definitely the one of the largest narratives here, but it seems like Kima's uniquely positioned to also provide, you know, solution enablement beyond security and cross-chain liquidity, which are enormous problems to be solved. Don't let me minimize that, but just looking at how this becomes something that ties in at multiple levels, because I will bring this full circle in a minute, but I'd love to get your input.
So, thank you for this great question about AI capabilities. I will share a bit about ours, and how we are working with it. So basically, yes, guys, indeed, AI is like a narrative now. Unfortunately to us, you know, there are a lot of noise there, but like a lot of noise in that area. But there are a lot of amazing, awesome things that are being built with AI on chain. But you see also that there are many opportunists that are basically taking ChatGPT with the prompt and creating some kind of a workflow and calling it AI agent. And people do not kind of see the difference. Although it's a ruling narrative, I would say that ours basically has been around for kind of long time. It's even been sent patent on. It's a system called Lima, and we actually gave it a face and a voice on Twitter, and soon launching the Telegram version of her. Lima stands for the Liquidity Management Algorithm. That's the real name of the system that we've created. It's basically a system that knows how to incentivize liquidity providers to provide liquidity across different blockchains from the same source on Kima to move their assets in order to support rising interest rates, to basically cool down rising interest rates on one chain from another. So, for example, let's say that right now Solana meme casino is open and money is more scarce, and now APY for USDC is skyrocketing to 31%, while on Optimism, nothing actually happens on the chain, and your USDC is now doing something like 3.5%. Then the Lima algorithm knows how to move these assets and manage them in a way that will be beneficial for the users by adding more liquidity where it's needed and incentivizing the liquidity providers, in our example from Optimism, to come with their liquidity to Solana to generate higher yields. It helps because it cools down the crazy interest rates by adding more to the supply. So the blockchain users, us, we're enjoying lower fee rates, while the liquidity providers are basically using their capital in a much more efficient manner and are maximizing their yields. So it's a win-win-win for everyone. And Lima does it exactly like the Uber system incentivizes drivers to move from one side of the city to another. So let's say that there is token 2049 now in one side of the city in Singapore, and on the other side, there's just a normal day and people are going along with their day. Then now there's stress on the cabs on that side of the area, on that side of the city. Then Uber system will rise the fees to be paid to the drivers in order to attract more drivers to that side of the city. They earn more, the passengers will pay less, and everybody will have a cab to go back to their hotels with. So the same exact thing is what Lima does. And as I said, we gave it a voice and even a face on Twitter. You can search for AI Agent Lima connected, AI Agent Lima, Lima. And basically, she now shows opportunities that she finds on various DeFi protocols, if it's DeFi pools or lending protocols on theoretically all chains. And she also tracks changes on stablecoin and TVL on blockchains to inform investors, liquidity providers, on potential risks and potential new opportunities that might have been missed by people because it's untrackable at all times. So by combining a unique set of skills and data sources that we've infused into Lima, we have created her first face that is basically now interacting almost one-sided on Twitter. Soon to have a face on Telegram to be much more interactive and engaged with. It will, by the way, utilize the Kima token to explore these features of Lima. And it's going also to probably, we had a first meeting about it today, so I don't want to promise anything, probably to have soon a face on our one of our website that will enable to be engaging with the AI agent and to get exclusive portfolio tips and recommendations in order to boost your yields. So that's a bit about AI, how we're utilizing it. And I think it's definitely going to revolutionize the way that that our ecosystem operates in the very near future. It already does.
I love it. I love the analogy with the surge pricing on Uber. I think that's everybody, if you can take a second to just think about that, that's a wonderful analogy that just makes sense. It makes sense in a lot of use cases. And I think this is really important because what this does is it drives towards ease of use. That's really the thread that I wanted to kind of push forward is ease of use, ease of use, ease of use. So as Tomer said, most of the AI that's being pushed out in the crypto mindshare, it's complete nonsense and garbage. Like really do your own research on it. Like it's where these two things don't really they don't necessarily always play well, but that's a use case where we can really start to see value being driven. You can see both with Arkefi and with Kima. Another place that I think drives towards ease of use, towards providing people an ample way to actually interact and benefit from everything that we've been talking about today, is we've already talked about how you don't really need to worry about the HTTPS side of it. You don't need to worry about the interoperability, the bridging, all of the stuff that basically chips away at the value of what you're trying to do. You don't need to worry about just putting your money in something that has nothing backing it, no real world asset, no collateralization, nothing of that nature. But you also don't have to abandon DeFi. You don't have to abandon things that can generate those exponential returns. And next, we talked about how important it is with bridging having 3 billion. It's almost like $3 billion a year that you can just pour down the drain. Imagine how much good that could do for innovation and helping people build using these technologies and these building blocks. That's something that is life changing for most of the world, and it's something where we in the West, at least, definitely take it for granted. It's wild. But no, I know we have 10 minutes left, so I want to touch on one last topic and then ask the guys some questions. So I want to touch on how important it is to be compliant and how important it is to have on and off ramps. For me, I am baffled as to why there aren't on and off ramps, or that on the roadmap. That's not even been in discussion for 90% of projects. I think it's one of the most important things for ease of use and actual usability, and what it can do for Arkefi and the tokenized assets on that side. I'd love to first ask you, Tomer, if you want to share kind of what Kima's doing, and then Nick, I'd love for you to just quickly come in and explain how that benefits everybody in the Arkefi ecosystem as well.
Okay, so we'll be brief on our end. I do not have a lot to elaborate here because of the following. Basically, as for the on and off ramp solution, so think about Kima like completely eliminates that word on and off ramp. Imagine that you will be just sending 100 USDC from Ethereum to your bank. So it will become something like, not will become, it already became. We're live on mainnet. So it's like saying how you will do on and off ramp, from euro to dollars. So we all see it just as currency, right? Like you don't need any special process. What's the problem? You just take your euro, you go to your bank, and you just swap it. You just exchange it. So Kima basically does exactly the same thing with the on and off ramp. We're basically just exchanging these already digital assets, the currency you call money today, fiat money, which is just a number in your computer or some kind of a number in your credit card allowance, and basically swapping that digital asset created by centralized entities to another digital asset created by decentralized ecosystems. So the on and off ramp, we're just eliminating it. We're just making it money. We're just simplifying it. We're just flattening the curve. No one will be using the terms on and off ramp. And like you're not saying on and off ramp, for I don't know, from euros to pounds. You just exchange. We do exactly the same. Now, as for the KYC, so important to point out that Kima is a completely decentralized protocol, meaning that we're not doing any KYC, KYB of any sort to the user. Like exactly like you're going on Solana or Ethereum now, and you can buy whatever you want on OpenSea, and you can basically swap whatever you want on Uniswap and do whatever you want on Jupiter. So we're working exactly the same manner. We're providing the protocol that enables the communication between all of these. We are not the ones building the dApps. So basically the one who needs to do the KYC and the KYB process would be the owner of the application or the decentralized application that needs to screen you in order for you to participate in their specific experience. If it's a bridge, if it's an exchange, if it's an RWA platform or whatnot. On our end, we're completely agnostic to it. But the only thing that we are doing as the foundation, the Kima Foundation, does need to accept participants to run Kima validator nodes because we are doing such a delicate work with governments, with enterprises, with the centralized world, with the centralized world. We do need to know who is participating as a validator node operator in order to make sure that the network will stay secure and will not be hijacked by bad actors. Because when you're dealing with the centralized world, imagine that one bad actor connected to the US central bank theoretically can now, I don't know, start transferring money to all of his buddies, billions of dollars from the central bank and start printing. So theoretically, of course, can be done. That's why we are requiring you to have some kind of a license to run a node. It's not permissionless. So being managed by the foundation, by the way, not by us.
That's important. I would say that people are already doing that with the Federal Reserve, but I'm just kidding. Sorry, go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, I was about to say, I love the way of eliminating the on and off ramping words, right? It's just doing finance and creating opportunities for people to get exposure to any yield bearing opportunity. So I think from Arkefi perspective, this was the main reasons why we have the Kima integration very close on our roadmap in order to create this opportunity. So we just had our TGE last week on the 8th of January. We're really looking forward to bolster the partnership between Kima and Arkefi in a way that we actually provide just solutions, and nobody needs to know how these solutions are built as long as it's safe, ease of use, and making sure that we can provide an environment where everybody wins actually.
And so as we wind down, I want to ask some basically I want to ask, hey Tomer, do you have anything that you want to kind of shout out, any recent announcements that Kima's made, or anything that would benefit the listeners?
So, other than the fact that you guys now know about Lima, in case you missed her, make sure to follow her on Twitter to get to know anything about her and the upcoming stuff that we're going to do with her, which is going to be kind of wild. I can share that we just signed a few huge agreements with some Fortune 500 companies. I've been dying and waiting for a long while to tell the world about it, but takes longer than I expected to announce all of it. Where in the end of the day, these are Fortune 500 companies, so it takes a long time to announce all of these until they prove everything. So stay tuned with Kima Network. Follow us, and you will get to know very soon who are the ones that we stand with. I can say that there are 4 huge companies, 3 huge players from the communication world, and another huge player from the, you can say, I don't know, there's like a column that they're doing a lot, but it's a company that is known to anyone. One of the biggest players in the Asian market. So with that,
Nice, man.
I can wrap up.
Dropping
So
some
before,
nuggets here. Maybe one last question before we actually drop it off, and I think you're already giving some valuable information. So as you may know, Arkefi just launched. Just want to ask you a more personal question. You've been an angel investor. You've probably had some exposure to high value assets. Arkefi is listing art, cars, and collectibles. Any type of asset that you'd love to see, Tomer, to be listed on the platform where you're excited to potentially see us creating?
Well, I already see cool stuff that I'm waiting to hold on the platform. Saw the Picasso, saw the Ferrari, and cool stuff that finally, is being tokenized and getting to the blockchain. I was waiting for this since the age and era of the security token offerings. If you remember that it was like a thing for a while, the STOs, which we're now calling RWAs, just to simplify stuff. So been waiting for it for a while. Very happy, to know that we can finally, diverse our portfolios and actually hold assets that are not as volatile and really have some feet, on the ground outside of the digital realms. I think it's important to diversify portfolios as an investor myself. Don't know if I will. I can point at some specific asset that I would like to see. I think that the ones that I already saw are cool enough. I will leave it to the more creative people to think what else can be seen on the RWA platform. But yeah, anything that is scarce and is collectible, and there's someone else on the other side of the world that wants to own it, and it's basically timeless. I would like to see maybe Fabergé eggs, I think, are next. Yeah, I think this would be cool.
I think that's a first, and I think it's something where, yeah, it's something where I think the planes, trains, and automobiles are awesome, and the art is amazing. But I think it's really, a lot of it has to do with fandom as well. What you really resonate with. I think Fabergé eggs would be amazing. I think something timeless always comes to mind is watches as well. It's something where I think the world of culture, finance, and actual intelligent, intelligent collateral based offerings are really coming together. So I wanted to say thank you guys both for your time, and everybody listening. Truly, thank you for joining us this morning. If you have any questions, please be sure to follow everybody up here, follow everybody around you, and then make sure you follow the projects, join the Discords, join the Telegrams, stay tuned to the announcements. Get as involved as you can, because these are the technologies that are going to drive this space forward into becoming an industry. I am not kidding. I almost said a bad word, but I kid you not. These are the things that are real. They're creating real impact in the world, and they're not just here to hype you up and send you off with points and do all the nonsense that basically we need to leave behind. We need to graduate as an industry, and that's through education. That's through education through action. And so it's really great to have a set of innovators up here and teams around that to show that, not just tell. So thank you all, and have an amazing rest of your day. It was a pleasure to have Tomer, Kima, Arkefi, Nick, everybody up here together, and peace and love to everybody.
Thank you, guys. It was lots of fun, and yeah, feel free to follow us on our channels and stay tuned with further announcements of the cool stuff I told you is on the way. So, guys, thank you for an awesome AMA. It was fun. Yeah, have a good one.
Thanks for having us, man.
Take care, everybody.